Hello, welcome to another video with me. My name is Melissa. If you are new to my channel, I am an illustrator and graphic designer primarily, but I have a background in fashion design and I have an immense love for astrology and this whole idea of finding your own personal style. In today's video, we are going to be focusing on how to find and curate your own signature style. We're going to be talking about what is a signature style, why even have one, and some tools of how to curate your own signature look. For example, some obvious ones, we have Marilyn Monroe, who is extremely known for her look, her short blonde hair, her shiny red lips, and her mole, or her beauty mark. And we have modern day muses such as Dita Von Teese. She has a similar trademark, which is her red lips and her mole, which are loosely based off of Marilyn Monroe's signature look. But on Dita Von Teese, it is read differently. So although you can have and borrow signature looks from other famous people, people of the past, or even modern day muses, the way you combine and mix and include things that are true to you, and honor things about you that don't change, like things you love and will love for years on end, it becomes your own signature look. Continuing on the conversation of taking inspiration from celebrities or anyone of the past, there is actually nothing wrong with that. I think there's this common misconception and very negative connotation of copying a look. So there's this, I don't want to say like influencer or content creator, I'm not really sure what to call her, but her name is Gabriette, and I recently made a post about her. And I mentioned that I really like her look. I don't know much about her, but from what I've seen, I really like how she curates her feed and how she dresses. And I've even mentioned that I like her look because she reminds me of one of my personal muses, which is Angelina Jolie, specifically during her 90s era. She was very alternative, she had a dark aesthetic, and Gabriette really exemplifies that. And someone in my comments said that Gabriette allegedly may not have liked being compared to Angelina Jolie of the 90s. And I don't know how true that is, but I do want to continue that conversation of if part of your look is ever compared to someone famous or someone else, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's good to be inspired by one another. And when you mix it with things about you, it's going to naturally be unique to you. I mean, there is something negative about completely copying someone's look from like head to toe. I don't think that's what Gabriette did at all, but I do think that it's important to take inspiration from a multitude of resources, and the way you combine it, especially with things that you love and truly like honor, and even speak to your inner childhood, which I'll get to, you're not really copying someone, and there's nothing wrong with being inspired by other famous people. Marilyn Monroe actually took inspiration from Jean Harlow, who was a famous 1930s actress, and she was never shy about it. She even said that her blonde hair and seductive ensemble and the way she presented herself on camera, she took a lot of inspiration from Jean Harlow, and she took pride in that. And Dita Von Teese, as mentioned, her beauty mark is actually tattooed on her. Her red lips wasn't just Marilyn Monroe, but like of akin to her favorite eras, which is like the 40s and 50s, but she has also noted that she took inspiration from people like Mae West and Hedy Lamarr. Okay, so the next big question is, why even have a signature look? Especially if it's not your aspiration to be on camera or even on social media. Even if you have like minimal social media presentation, why even have a signature look? At the end of the day, a signature look is for you. It is a self-expression, but in an outward, external way. It's fun. I mean, can't deny that. And I know that's like the most not fancy way of putting it, but it is fun. It also puts meaning to some of the clothes that you buy. I feel like in my experience that it actually has saved me money, because as trends come and go rapidly, as we all know, I am not inclined to buy every single trend. I look into what is trending. does it fit into the look that I'm going for? And if not, I keep moving along. Also, when I go shopping, whether it's online, thrifting, I have an agenda in mind and I have a look that I am going after. And because I'm not tempted by every little shiny new thing, I think having a signature look or a signature look that you are aiming for prevents you from doing impulse buys. All right, let's talk about some tools that can help you find or curate your own signature style. I have mentioned, I keep mentioning Dita Von Teese, but she actually has a book called Your Beauty Mark. I think it's a really good resource. A lot of it is through the perspective of how she personally found her own beauty mark or signature style. And she talks about a lot of retro muses, a lot of daily routines, and other famous people's signature styles. So that is a good resource. Notice that the more in tuned that I became with my astrological chart, as I mentioned in several videos, and I actually have a video that I go extremely in depth about how to find your style with astrology, but I'll briefly touch upon that right now and how it pertains to finding your signature style. So as I mentioned in the video that I made about astrology and finding your style with that, you have to find your dominant signs. I don't think that just relying on your sun sign or even just relying on your rising sign for your aesthetic and your signature look is enough. I also don't think that that is the formula that is for everybody. I feel like everyone's birth chart is super individual, and some people may resonate a lot with their sun sign, whereas some people may resonate a lot with a different sign that is present because it is their Venus, Mars, and midheaven. So, for example, I actually do rely a lot on my rising sign, which is Pisces. But it's not just because it is my rising sign. The rising sign technically dictates your appearance and your outward expression. But Pisces is also prevalent in my Mars, it is prevalent in my Mercury, and it's just heavily influenced my entire chart. So it makes my chart Pisces heavy, water heavy, and I also use an undercurrent of Aries, which is my sun sign and also my Venus. And I like to combine those two together. And I have a overall feeling of Pisces, which is very fluid, very ethereal, kind of head in the clouds type of energy. So kind of dreamy and a little out there. And then I have Aries, which in my opinion, a lot of Aries energy tends to be a little bold, a kind of unafraid, undercurrents of like red accents. So I really am drawn to red lipstick. I'm drawn to motifs that have red coloring in it, whether it's hearts or cherries against black or very dark blues and purples, which is very Pisces. So that is one example. The way that you could take inspiration from your astrological sign is super individual. So I would recommend looking into signs that are repeating in your chart, elements that are repeating in your chart, and finding fabrics, motifs that remind you of the feeling that your astrological placements remind you of. A more direct approach, because that's kind of abstract, but a more solidified way of doing that too is going on websites like astrochart.com and looking up celebrities with similar placements as you. So you can actually look up by placement. So you can look up other Pisces risings, and I have actually done that before. And I do resonate with other Pisces rising celebrities, such as Kristen Ritter. I have mentioned her several times. I've mentioned Billie Eilish. I don't necessarily take inspiration from all the looks, but an overall feeling. And I also resonate with Betty Page, a fellow Pisces rising and also a soft natural Kibbe. I have short bangs. They're not necessarily Betty bangs, but I do take inspiration from her overall feel. Another tool to use is Kibbe body type. Hypothetically speaking, Kibbe does accommodate for all body types. It doesn't matter if you gain or lose weight, your Kibbe technically stays the same. But the whole point of Kibbe is not to pick apart your body or who you are. Find inspiration in how they dress and how to dress for your body proportions. And like I mentioned, Kibbe is a tool. You don't have to use it. It did work for me personally because I would try to take so much inspiration from the Kibbe body type gamines before I even knew what a gamine was, such as Ariana Grande or Zoe Kravitz. And I would pick apart my body and wonder why I can't look like Zoe Kravitz when I wear the same Beastie Boys tee as her and I'm wearing the same baggy jeans. And why does she look super cool girl chic and I look frumpy and I just woke up out of bed in this same exact graphic tee and jeans? I am not professionally verified in terms of what my Kibbe body type is, but I am pretty sure I'm a soft natural because one of my most dominant traits is my broad shoulders. A lot of other soft naturals, the way their hips and curve go, I resonate with that. There's a mix of yang or angularity in my body with a hint of softness from the yin. And although I'm 5'2", there's not a lot of I don't feel as petite as a certain gamines, such as soft gamines. I used to think I was a romantic. And I think there's more softness to a romantic, and that's how I concluded I'm a soft natural. And after finding out or feeling like I resonate with soft naturals, and I looked into other soft naturals and the way, for example, the way Zoe Kravitz would wear a band tee versus the way Pamela Anderson would wear a band tee, it would look very different. And instead of wondering why I don't look like Zoe Kravitz, I'm not saying I look like Pamela Anderson, but the broadness in her shoulders and the way she wears a t-shirt, it does look different, but it doesn't look bad. And it makes me realize I don't look bad in a t-shirt, I just look different, and it gives off a different look. And also it gives me a different perspective of, oh, maybe instead of pairing that band tee with the jeans I saw in Zoe Kravitz, maybe I can try it with a tennis skirt or a mini skirt or capri pants, and it will have a different look and effect. So that is how I used Kibbe. Like I mentioned, take it with a grain of salt. That's the way I find it the most useful, where I find other celebrities of the same Kibbe range, and I really deep dive into it because I feel like the most commonly used celebrities are not always the same aesthetic that we all want to go for. I favor a lot of dark aesthetics, so whenever I think of gamines, instead of always using Audrey Hepburn, I like to talk about Winona Ryder. Or when it talks about dramatics, instead of talking about Bella Hadid or Taylor Swift, I'm going to talk about Angelica Houston because she's Morticia Addams. So when it comes to Kibbe body types, I would recommend have that focus more on the silhouettes. So for example, as I have used an example, Pamela Anderson being a soft natural, I actually admire and like her seductiveness. I take some pieces of the way she wears her clothes or anyone of a broad shoulder range. And even though I'm not, let's say, a flamboyant natural like Angelina Jolie is speculated to be, I still take inspiration from her because there is some crossover between soft naturals and flamboyant naturals. And I think that's a good way to hack it. If, let's say, you are a romantic body type and you don't necessarily resonate with all the romantic body type examples, you can look to some soft natural examples. It's going to be a little different, but there is some crossover. Or I know it's super controversial, but I think some soft dramatics can also take inspiration from romantic muses. So when it comes to Kibbe body type, or even just dressing for your Kibbe body type, I think it fails when you look at it as a concrete text of information. It's very subjective. So take what helps you and leave out what doesn't. Another way to find or curate your own signature look is finding out what your color season is. I don't think you're gonna find your entirety of your signature style by finding your color season, but I think it helps wrap things up a little bit. I don't fully use my color season in my signature style. It's definitely there in some elements, such as my makeup. When I'm choosing a red lipstick, I try to look for something that's a little more on the cool side, a little plummy. I also use it in terms of my signature style in terms of branding. I am a graphic designer first and foremost, so I use a lot of like the cooler, deep winter. That is my season, by the way. I'm a deep winter. I tend to use those color range in my artwork. I tend to use it in like the colors I surround myself with. Whenever I make products, I tend to like use a deep winter color palette. I make these keychains. That's what I'm referring to. So that's one way. But again, in terms of clothing, I wear all black for the most part. So that's what I mean by color season is not the most prevalent in my signature style, but you do see it in pieces such as the background for my videos, my artwork, and like things that I surround myself with. But what that could mean for you if you wear a little more color than I do, find out your color season can really help you narrow down the colors that always make you look and feel your best. Also, finding out your color season can help you out a lot with your hair color, for example. And knowing, like, let's say what browns or what blondes or like the fun colors look best on you, it does help knowing what your color season is. So for example, if you want blue hair to be your signature look, knowing that you are a winter versus an autumn or spring, it's going to be very different. There are warmer tone blues versus cool tone blues, and knowing what your color season is can help you decide which blue or pink or brown or blonde you can go for. And another tool that I think is super helpful that I actually don't hear a lot about is really getting in tuned with your inner child. I noticed the signature look that I'm trying to go for because I'm not even fully there yet. There are some elements that I know I'm going to keep for years on end, but most of the ensembles that I've created and pieces that I plan on buying, it's me getting in touch with my inner child. And so for example, I have always been drawn to darker aesthetics. I remember watching the original Addams Family, like the 1960s version, when I was in 3rd grade. And I would spend my summers like watching marathons of it and just being like entranced by Morticia Addams and this dark humor, the elegance that she had, and I just wanted to emulate that. I've also liked darker themes in terms of like video games. One of my childhood favorite games is Eternal Darkness. I associate that with family time. I know that may be odd for some people, but playing this like horror survival game with my family has like a lot of warm and cozy memories with me. And also in middle school, I was like an emo kid, and I didn't really care how I dressed until middle school. And when I started dressing this like certain dark way, I started to feel like at home with myself, even though I wasn't fully there or fully understood how I wanted to express myself. Being in tuned with who that person is and what she probably would be super proud to see has helped me also curate my signature look. Okay, so now that I've talked about different tools that you can use to create your own personal or signature style, let's talk about some elements that could be your personal style or combining all of these elements to make your personal signature style. And the first thing I want to talk about is hair. So this weekend, I actually saw my hairstylist. It's been a year since I've seen her. And I think it's important to talk about her because she is my hairstylist that gave me my micro bangs for the first time. I think if you are going to a hairstylist, shout out to Allison, she is amazing. You need to find someone who understands and like bonus points even has like a similar aesthetic that you are going for. So it kind of happened miraculously by like fate and destiny. I believe in that. I'm very spiritual. She understands the aesthetic I'm going for. She knows I love a dark aesthetic, and she herself has a dark aesthetic. I would describe her as like akin to like a very forest witch essence. That may not always have to be the case for everyone's hairstylist, but I think it helps because if you're going to a hairstylist that doesn't understand or even appreciate the aesthetic you're going for, you may end up with a hairstyle that you don't fully feel yourself in. I will say I don't go to the salon that often. I actually do cut my bangs for the most part, but what I like to do is Allison, she created the initial shape, which is like, I call it a mountain shape of the micro bangs because there's a variety of micro bangs. I'll get into that in just a second. But She created the initial shape and I upkeep it and I just follow the initial shape that she created, and then I go back to her when I can is my micro bangs. It doesn't mean I own the idea of a micro bang. So if you want bangs to be part of your signature style, there's a couple of things you have to think about. So one is the upkeep. You have to pick a bang that you are willing to dedicate to. Lucky for me, there's something about micro bangs that actually aren't as hard to upkeep. As long as soon as I get out of the shower and I blow dry them, like I don't have to blow dry the rest of my hair, just the bangs, they dry down and I wake up and they look like this. Whereas when I tried side bangs or even curtain bangs, for me personally, it required a lot of work. If I didn't style a curtain bang the right way, it just looks like I don't have bangs that day. Find a hairstyle, not just bangs, but a hairstyle that you are willing to upkeep. Everyone's level of what is low or high maintenance is up to you. At one point, so Dita Von Teese, as you can tell from this video, is one of my main muses, and I really loved her hair. And I did try to go for that retro hairstyle where you sleep in curlers or use hot rollers. I don't own a curling iron. I own hot rollers though, because I was trying to go for that retro look at some point. You have to figure out your level of comfortability and your time, your lifestyle. I think another big thing is your environment. I live in a pretty humid area, so with those retro curls, it required a lot of hairspray, and don't like using a lot of hairspray because I have acne prone skin. So it's very like personal to you. There are some people who can rock the retro hairstyle and it works with their hair texture and their lifestyle. You have to find what works best for you, whereas micro bangs may not work for everybody. There's some people who have said in my comments, they're like, oh, I like your micro bangs, but they require a lot of work. So that's upkeep. Another thing that you need to think about is what is complementary to your personal face shape. You are going for, let's say, micro bangs. There is a variety of micro bangs to go for. There are people with more Betty Page bangs where it's more U-shaped. There are people with much shorter bangs and it goes like up to here and it works great on their face. There are people with curtain bangs, side bangs. There's even people with no bangs, and sometimes their signature look can just be like a straight up bob, the 90s look. And you have to find the shape that works for you personally and also the upkeep that you are willing to do. At one point in college, I had super short hair, like up to here. And at that moment in my life, that was my signature look. But I really grew tired of short hair just for me personally and my hair texture, because if sometimes I'd wake up in the morning and my hair, whenever my hair is super, super short, it flips out in the most unpredictable manner, and it required so much hair product and a lot of time and effort that it wasn't enjoyable to have short hair, whereas the hair I have now is low maintenance for me. Okay, so let's talk about makeup and choosing makeup that is part of your signature look. I wouldn't say makeup is part of my expertise, so take everything you hear with a grain of salt. If being super experimental and wearing very editorial type of makeup, you feel at home and you feel like it's your time to express yourself, then let that be your signature look. Or if you're like me and wearing too much makeup makes you feel like a little uncomfortable, then don't force yourself. I haven't chosen makeup to be my signature look per se, because I like to participate in trends in that way. So for example, I'm trying out a new eyebrow trend and I don't know if I may fall in love with a different eyebrow trend in the future. Whereas wearing red lipstick of some sort has always made me feel more at home. And like a super dark red lip, you pay attention to the colors, the products that you always just go back to. But if it is an element that you want to keep experimenting with, it doesn't have to be your signature look. Finding out your signature style in terms of clothing. So sometimes it could be something as simple as wearing all black, wearing harnesses and different types of harnesses on a daily basis, and you're the harness girl. I think when it comes to clothing and in terms of finding your signature style, the goal I personally have in mind, and it could be different for everybody, but I think what has helped me is I think of myself as a cartoon character, a TV show character, or a video game character. This is not like a look per se, but it is part of the whole ensemble and like this thing that is signature to you, and it is a signature scent. So I think we hear about it all the time. We hear about Marilyn Monroe and her Chanel No. 5, or with Adele, she is super married to Dior Poison. And she has even said in interviews, she has been approached about creating her own scent, her own signature scent. And she has turned it down because she said, no matter what, I will always wear Dior's Poison. I'm gonna get a little personal, but if we're talking about signature scents, it could be the soaps and shampoos you wear. For me, so I have a mixture of things. I like wearing Chloé perfume, like the original Chloé, and there's actually a reason why I was really drawn to this perfume. There is this, let me move that out of camera. There is this baby cologne from Philippines, and it's by the brand Bench, and the scent is called Indian Summer, and it's like this yellow bottle. And it's advertised as a baby cologne, but like anyone can wear it, and you wear it when you get out of the shower, and like while your pores are open, you're supposed to like pat it on your body. And Chloe smells like a more luxurious, expensive version of that, because that Bench cologne is like $7 if you buy it from Seafood City, which is a Filipino supermarket. And I actually still wear that. I would wear that when I get out of the shower though, and then Chloe is like what I bring with me in my purse. With that Bench cologne, it's like a bit of my childhood. And that's like my combination scent. So when you're finding your signature scent, it doesn't have to be this one perfume that we always hear about in magazines or interviews. It could be a mixture of your soaps, your deodorants. Maybe you work at a cafe and you just always smell like coffee, and that could be, I know that's like an unconventional thing, but that could be your signature scent. There's just like a lot of ways to go about it. I'm not really sure how to categorize this, but glasses, like certain glasses, I really associate it with certain people. The content creator Keiko Lynn is actually really well known for her retro-esque glasses, and it became so signature to her that she actually got a collaboration with the brand Bon Look, and people could buy glasses that look like Keiko Lynn's. And lastly, a very vague one is Motifs, and that can cover a lot of things. So one of my friends, Bendy, the creator, she is a super talented sculptor and artist. She makes a faux bat taxidermy. She has like her whole ethos is she wants to stop like unethical taxidermy such as bats, which is a pretty cruel like form of taxidermy. So she makes very realistic faux bat taxidermy, and that is her career, that is her job. But not just that, like her bats are not just her art, but you see bats seep into her look. So like whenever she goes live, you see she wears a bat choker, but a motif. So every time I hear or look at bats, I think of Bendy, the creator. That also uses the tool of going back to and connecting with your inner childhood. What motifs have you always felt drawn to? And even if it is a commonly used motif, like bats, Bendy, the creator, didn't create the idea of being obsessed with bats, but the way she wears it and the way she incorporates it into her look has become unique to her. I hoped some of that was helpful. I hoped you can take some elements from that and create your own signature look. And until next time, bye.